Okay. Well, thank you everyone for being here, and it's very nice to see, as I said before, so many people here, despite the fact that it is like almost the end of the year. So thank you again, and I wanted to thank in particular Filippo, Beatrice, and Alberto, who organized basically all this stuff, and also all the people that helped us sharing it with you, in fact, and obviously all our alumni that are going to help us with this event, and that are in fact the protagonist in a way of this event. So thank you again, and I think that I don't have anything more to say, and just that I'm the president of the Venice Diplomatic Society, for who don't know it, and yeah, and also that I wanted to add that this is just the first of more workshops that we will have during the year, and not only regarding like orientamento and all this stuff, but also we will try to have new workshops on other topics regarding, for example, academic writing or public speaking and so on. So we will obviously give you more information during the next weeks and months. But for the moment, we can start with this one. And yeah, I leave the floor to Filippo so that you can begin.
Okay, actually, so according to our time slots, there should be Ginevra, but she's not here yet. So maybe we can wait another 2 minutes. Maybe I will call her now. Ginevra. Yeah, maybe I will call her. Just a moment.
So
otherwise, we can just let Sophia.
Yeah, we can start maybe with the second one, and then.
I agree. I still am admitting people, but it's better to start, and we can just go on.
Are you here, Sophia? Sophia Luzini? Or
no?
No, apparently not. So Beatrice, you're next. You're the next one.
Awesome. I'm ready. Tell me what to do. Should I present myself, or are we gonna go directly with the questions?
Yeah, I think maybe you already know the questions. So
right.
But we can, yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so.
Okay. Well, hello everyone. My name is Beatrice, and I mean, there's so much to say. Really, I'm a counselor of the Venice Diplomatic Society. I'm ex-PISA, as you may have guessed. And I'm now studying my master in European Politics and Society, and it's basically Erasmus Mundus joint degree. So there are 4 universities in the consortium that organizes the master. It's Charles University in Prague, Jagiellonian University in Krakow, Pompeu Fabra in Barcelona, and Leiden University in the Netherlands. So yeah, it's basically a branch of political science, but it's also European studies. At first I thought it would be more focused on the European Union. It's not. It talks about Europe in general, and of course, then you can take electives that delve deeper into the European Union itself. And yeah, I just finished my first semester. The first semester is in Prague, and let's say normally a cohort is composed by 45 students that come from all over Europe, but not only. I have classmates from the US, classmates from South America, or from, I don't know, Georgia, even China. So it's super interesting, super international. And so for the first semester, we were all together in Prague. And we had some introductory courses of, I don't know, comparative politics and society, compared to European politics, transnational European history. We had culture in Europe and cultural diplomacy. And these were all compulsory. So there was not much of a choice really, but it was to get basically everyone on the same level. And now from February, we are going to be split. And for the second semester, I'm going to go to Krakow, but other classmates of mine are going to Leiden. So from February until June. And then for the second year, those people who went to Krakow, for example, can decide to go either to Leiden or to Barcelona. And the people who went to Leiden for the second semester of the first year can decide whether they want to go for the second year to either Krakow or Barcelona again. So in Barcelona, you can only do the full year. And yeah, that's more or less the structure of the course. I really like it. My goal would be to work hopefully in European institutions. So I think it's a good platform from where you can start. Also because if you do the second year in Leiden or in Krakow, you will have a compulsory internship and the university will help you to organize that. So for example, I'll do my second year in the Netherlands, and I think that's going to be, useful to access European institutions also because the campus is very close to The Hague. And there are actually also classes that could take place in The Hague. So that really a great asset of the program, on top of the fact that you basically are going to visit 4 European cities and you're going to spend months in at least 3 of them. And another really nice things about the program are the extracurricular activities. So at first, I was not really happy with my subjects, I must admit, because with PISA, we didn't really do a lot of political science. I felt like I was a little bit behind compared to my classmates. But we had a lot of these extracurricular activities. I was a rapporteur for a conference organized by a foundation in Prague that was basically like a 3-day conference about democracy and democratic backsliding and the relations between the European Union and the international environment. So that was really interesting. Also, the program is part of the Europeum, I guess it's pronounced, consortium, that is basically a network of universities, including, for example, Oxford. And they organize a lot of activities that you can apply for, because since you're part of the consortium, you have access to these events. And for example, in the end of January, I will have a seminar in Brussels. It was supposed to be a seminar in Brussels. Unfortunately, it's going to be on Zoom. But if you apply and you're lucky and things start to happen in presence, then you might get the chance to have a free trip to Brussels. So that's really awesome. And yeah, that's pretty much the program. I'm sorry, I'll take a look at the questions. Okay, sorry, I also have to talk about PISA, but I'll do it briefly because you know what everything is about there. So I think that the advantage of PISA is that even though a lot of things, of course, I couldn't know in depth, such as classmates of mine who studied European studies, because of course they had already done a lot of things that the program dealt with. But it gave me a lot of flexibility. Like when I find something new, when I find out a subject that I don't know anything about, I notice that I learn quite quickly. Like I have a good method, and even, for example, a course in transnational history that I knew nothing about, really nothing, I still could, get my way around it. And I got a good grade in the midterm exam, so I was happy with that. I strongly recommend an Erasmus. If you're still in time to do it, please do an Erasmus, because what PISA doesn't give you a lot is, at least what it didn't really give to me is the opportunity to write a lot of papers, which is something that you do when you study in other countries in Europe. And that is what it is required by a master that takes place in 4 different countries in Europe. You won't write a lot of exams like you do in Foscari, but you do have a lot of papers, a lot of presentations, a lot of group work. And so you have to be ready for that. Let's say it's not just going to the library, studying, and then writing an exam. It's much more than that. It's more challenging, but also more rewarding, I would say. So yeah, please stop me if you have any questions, because I am a very good talker. I'm very talkative. So I'll just go on. And I don't know if I have the time to give some tips about the application. I mean,
yeah, sure.
So the application process is hard. It's really hard if you want to go abroad, because if you want to do everything in time, you have, first of all, to be able to, if you want to start, I don't know, September 2022, you have to send your application by nowish. So December 2021, January 2022, the deadline for my program, the European Politics and Society, was the end of February if you wanted to have the opportunity to have an Erasmus scholarship, or end of April if you were just willing to pay by yourself. The scholarship is really hard to get if you're European, I must admit, because they tend to give it more to people who come from outside of Europe, but it is possible to get it. And yes, sorry, I see a hand raised, so I'll stop. And Andrea, go ahead, please.
Yeah, only if you can remind me the name of the course.
Yes, it's European Politics and Society.
Okay, thank you.
You are also another big tip that I did not know about. So if you write Erasmus Mundus Master on Google, you'll end up on a page of the European Commission. I think it's European Commission, European Union anyway. And there is this huge list of all the Erasmus Master programs that exist. There is one or two for every subject, really. So I took this one because I actually was looking at the Leiden University and I found this program and I really liked it. So I applied for it, but I did not know that other Erasmus Master programs existed. And like, if I knew it now, like there were some others that fit more my interest. There was one in human rights, there was one in international law. So really there is a vast array. Yes, I can repeat the name of the site. I don't know the name of the site, but you can just Google. Wait, I'll write it in the chat. Erasmus Mundus programs. And then just look for the official website of the European Union. And there is this list you can filter by the subject you're interested in, or just like a keyword, and really you find anything. And normally there are 4, 5, even 6 universities that are in a network all together, and you get the chance to study in each one of them. So it's really nice. Yeah, going back to the application is demanding. So you have to be ready to do it December, January, more or less, if you want to start in September. Otherwise, you have to wait. You will have to wait for the following year, which is also totally fine, but I was a bit in a rush. And so I tried to do everything. And what is normally required is that you have 2 reference letters from 2 professors that talk to you. So really get in touch with your professors. If you did an Erasmus, it's really nice if you have 1 reference letter from the Erasmus and 1 reference letter from the Foscari. And it is difficult, but it's nice if the professor knows you a little bit. So you can email them, of course, like, hey, I really liked your course. I did this exam. I got this grade. Could you please write me a recommendation letter? And some of them are really nice and will be like, yeah, sure. Just give me a bit more information about you so that I can be more complete as complete as possible. But some others will be like, I don't really know you. Like, yes, you did this exam with other 200 students. So I don't have anything to write. So a good thing that you can do is, for example, ask your the professor that is supervising you for the thesis, because that's a person that you're in contact with a bit more often. What I also try to do is I picked a professor. I mean, you'll know it. It's Sara De Vido, and I checked which classes she was teaching on top of international law for Pisa. And so she was teaching European Union law, and so I also did the exam of European Union law, even if it was not in Pisa curriculum. And also she was teaching a class in VIU, which was really interesting for me. And so I was like, okay, I mean, it's interesting. It's still the same professor. I would like to ask her for the recommendation letter. So I will also do this class. And really, you can take advantage right now of the hybrid form of the Foscari, because I didn't have to go to Sunset Volo once a week. I could just do the class online, and that made it much easier. So that's one thing you need, the 2 reference letter. The second thing you need is the CV. My program wanted specifically the Europass, so I think many of you might have it already. That's normally something that people don't like companies, other universities don't really like the format of Europass. So just always check if that's the required frame. If it's not, please use something else. Don't use Europass if you can avoid it. There are a lot of nice things. I'll write them in the chat. You probably know Canva. It's just an app, and it's really easy to use, and you can create your CV from there. I also really like this website that is called Overleaf, and this uses let's say programming language for creating your CV. But if I could do it, you can as well, because I'm terrible with computers and stuff. But I made my CV with that. You get a template, and you just have to fill in all the parts. You play with it a bit, and you learn how to use it, and that makes a really, really nice CV. It's more synthetic, and yeah, it has just a nicer look to it. But if you want to do European politics and society, you're fine with Europass. It's fantastic. And then finally, you will need your motivation letter, which I struggled a lot with, because you have to present yourself, you have to say why you're interested in the program, and basically you have to just say how much you love the program and that you learned. Like, it's not enough to say, I'm passionate about European studies because, I don't know, I did the Veumeo 2019. And that's a component, of course, and you should put it because that's your personal interest and your personal experience, and it's fundamental. But on top of that, you should also research a bit at the program and say, for example, on the websites of the university, you can find all the subjects that you're going to study. And you could say, okay, I'm interested in this specific subject because, I don't know, I would like to write my thesis on a topic related to it. I'm just inventing right now. Or if the program offers some specific extracurricular activities. So EPS offers this Oxford Spring School that is highly selective, but you can participate if you're part of the program. You can say, okay, I'm really interested in this extracurricular activity that is present in the program because something. So you show that that is the program that you want to do, and that you know about the program, you know its structure, you know the opportunities that it gives you. And I know it's really hard to summarize in, I don't know, probably 1 page Word document, but you can do it. And there are a lot of examples on Google. I also was reading, I don't know, motivation letter of med students at some point, or students that wanted to do engineering, but the structure is always the same. The wording is very similar. And yeah, if you have more questions about it, I'm happy to talk, to say more, but I don't want to also steal the time from other speakers. So really, even after this meeting is over, you can always get in touch with me, and I'll be happy to help, because I received a lot of help from other people who were doing applications with me. We were always talking to each other, comparing our work and saying, okay, this works, this doesn't. I did this thing in a slightly different way. Maybe it could work for you as well. So that's also another possibility that you have. Yeah. So if there are questions, please go for it, because I'm happy to answer them. And no questions is stupid. I know I sound like a professor, but I promise it's really hard. It's a difficult process, but we're here to help you. See, Andrea, I think is it another question? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you, and then I want to ask if the master you're doing is somehow helping you to focus on the job you want to do. Like, is it like focusing all the course on the job world? I don't know how to say that. Or is it just to expand and focus on the knowledge of the topics you have selected?
Mm-hmm.
And so, because like in our case, like our course piece, in my case, this piece gives me knowledge of different subjects. Okay, but it's like not focusing on what can I do with these things. Okay. And so I'm asking if this is because the master is letting you, allowing you to focus on the job, or is it just something you have to understand personally? I don't know.
Okay. Personally, I think that a lot is on you. And it, of course, depends on what you want to do. If you want to stay in academia for European studies, for example, that might be the easiest thing to do, because if you choose the Barcelona path on this in the second year, it's a research focused path. So there is no internship, you only do research. That's one thing. If you don't want to stay in academia, and I don't think I want to, there are the Leiden and Krakow options, and those give you an internship. But again, it's on you to pick the internship that you want to do. And in which field, and with which NGO or institutions or embassy, something like that. The courses are theoretical, of course. It's normally just a topic that you have to research, that you have to study. It's not really career focused. But I think that there are opportunities for you to understand what you want to do, because the professors are not just researchers. Like one of my professors worked for Czech member of the parliament for a long time. She's often in Brussels. She has she's in touch with a lot of people who work in European institutions, and a lot of alumni work in European Union institutions. So it's really about, I think, the connections that you make, and to learn like who might be close to the field that you're interested in working in. In my case, yes, it's European Union institution, but it's still very vague. And I know that probably this master might not be enough to go work in that field, because it's highly competitive. So my personal plan is to do a second level master of 1 year after I finish this, in order to become more focused on the European Union. But again, the opportunities are many, also because you're living in different cities, so you're experiencing different realities and meeting people who are doing different careers. So it's really just like you have to take the opportunity and go talk to people, basically be like, hey, what's your job? How did you get there?
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. I don't.
Yes, yeah. Go on.
Yeah, there are no other hands raised.
Yeah, if we don't have any more questions, we can move on. Thank you very much, Beatrice, for your really interesting and useful speech. Really, really nice. And now we should move to, I think, Ginevra, if it's okay for Sophia, because Sophia, she was supposed to talk at now, basically, but we can start from the beginning. So I saw Ginevra entering. Are you here, Ginevra?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, I'm just looking because Beatrice was very good. I don't know if I will be that good, so I'm just looking at the three, wait, sorry. So, I mean, I think I'm the only one from Sciences Po. I do a specific master, which is the Human Rights and Humanitarian Action. But in PSIA, I had the chance to meet a lot of people, also Italian people, during this month. So if you have any questions on other programs, I can help, especially the security one, because it's the one I know most people, but I mean, so I'm doing the Human Rights Master in PSIA, which is the school in Paris. Sciences Po is divided in schools, and it's the School of International Studies. So there is human rights, security, diplomacy. There is also development. There are a lot of stuff. And I did the PISA. I graduated in July. And I mean, I started with the master. I'm very happy about this. I wanted to actually study at Sciences Po, also in the bachelor, but it was that the application process is very early compared to other university. Like it's not that early as in the UK, but it's when I was in the 5th year of high school. At the time I decided I wanted to do something, it was already closed. So I know, like I wanted to go here a lot. So I also prepared in the sense that I did the summer school during the summer of the first summer of COVID, because they have a summer school and a winter school. And, you know, I was at home as a lot of us, so I decided to do it. And a good thing was that the professor that taught the summer school also accepted to write the letter, one of the 2 letters of recommendation for me. So it was a big pro in my application. But all the other Italians that I know that got in, most of them, not all of them, but most of them have a letter from an Erasmus professor and a letter from like their thesis professor or something. So this is very important. If you can, like, I know there is VIU, like I did a course at VIU. So also if you haven't done an Erasmus, but you have done a class at VIU, that is a plus because it's like a different institution in some sort. I love the school. The courses are amazing. Not all of them, of course, but the professors they have a really good level. Most of them, what I really like is that most of them are professionals in their field. So we did, you know, human rights, the course of human rights law with a person that has written the like the report on death penalty for the UN in the last 15 years. There are very, like, the teaching stuff is amazing, and the classes, some of them are less entertaining, but most of them are very nice because it's not just the professor speaking. We have debates, we have workshop where we pretend to be, it's very like in the UK, so you pretend to be, you know, a ministry of something, and you have to come up with a strategy during the 2 hours of the class. So it's very nice, and it's very different from what you're used to. Alberto asked me, what do you think like PISA helped you or didn't in this, you know, in the application? I think a problem with PISA, and I think also people who did the internship during COVID as I did, is that if you don't do, like, it doesn't help you in finding stuff other than, you know, internships and other extracurricular activity to do other than a university, which is a big problem, because a lot of people that didn't get in that I knew, sometimes they were just like, yeah, I know, like people from like Germany, from France, they have, you know, 1-year internship, and I don't, because of course we can't do them. But this is also what Sciences Po really wants. So they want you to see that you have done other stuff besides studying, because and it's something that I really struggled with, because the teaching and the whole idea of the university is very different. So for example, we have every week a newsletter with like 50 open spots for internships that are going around from all the fields, because they really want you to do an internship in the 3rd semester. So it's 4th semester 2 each year. And there is the third semester that you have to do an internship or a thesis. But in human rights, they highly suggest an internship, which is, it means that you will finish your master without a thesis, which for Italians and also German, like, it's a crazy thing because we never not do a thesis. So most of, like, I know a bunch of Italians like me who will produce, one is because they want to do the thesis, and another one because we are the youngest people in the course. I personally going to do a gap year. So now I will finish the first year, and then I will stop and then I will do 2 internships, and then I will complete. This is also because most of the people there are around from 24 to 26 years old. So there are people who graduated, they worked for 2 years, they did, 2 years of working internships and stuff. I have 2 friends. I have one of my closest friends there. She's 27. She worked for Amnesty, and then she worked in Geneva, and then she came to do the master, which is also why it's difficult for Italians straight out of the bachelor to get in, because we lack the experience, the working experience. What I did was that I'm very interested in journalism, so I try to write for. If you took the course with Frappi, I write for Geopolitica. Maybe you know what it is. So I entered into Scomodo. I try to write a bit, and I try to do a bit of volunteer when I could, but it is very difficult. So also, if you graduated late and you have this 6 months ahead of you, please try to, if you want to apply. I think it works.
Yeah, I think there are some problems with the connections.
Okay.
Or is it me? I don't think
you hear me?
No.
Okay, yeah, now yeah, perfect.
You hear me? Oh, wait. Yeah, sorry.
Okay. It's a bit, yeah.
Yeah, Ginevra.
Hear me now?
Okay, yeah.
Better? Okay. So what I was saying is that if you have time, please find something to do, because they will value it so much. If you have a 4 to 6 months thing, whether it's paid or unpaid. I know not everyone can afford doing an unpaid internship, but also I collaborate with some newspaper, do some volunteer also in the summer, because it is what they really want. And it also if you have a precise master that you want to get in, please try to do something that is specific in that field. For example, I have a friend, he got into security and he wanted to do cybersecurity specifically. And his whole curriculum, most of his curriculum was he did his bachelor internship in a how do you enter in Scomodo? Scomodo, this is a $1 million question. You write to them and you get in. There is no now they're redoing the journal, now they're redoing the magazine. So there is a moment of stop, but there is no selection process. It's 200 people. The point is that you have to pitch articles, and they can also say no. So you pitch articles and they can say, we don't like this. I've been in Scotland it's 1 year since I've entered, and I wrote 2 times in the written magazine. I wrote 2 articles in the written magazine. I wrote more in the online one, but I also pitched many of them, and they were like, yeah, no, this is so, it's really up to you, because it's such a big, wide, group of people. Now they're redoing it. So I suggest to wait for 1 month or something, because they might say no for now, but you just write. There is a part of the website where there is contatti, and there is a number, and you write to them. And that is how I got in. So while Geopolitica, you do a selection. Yeah. Geopolitica, they open the call. So Frappi already told us, though, there is this website, a lot of my students write in it. So you wait for them to open collaborations and stuff, or internships, and you can apply. they don't take everyone. Of my friend group, I think 5 or 6 of us applied, and 2 of us got in. They really value if you have like Canva knowledge or like knowledge with editing videos and stuff, they can really use you. But you just have to wait for them to like open spots, because for example, few months ago, like 2 months ago, I think the whole, like a lot of people in the post-Soviet area group stopped like collaborating. And so they were like only 2, and they opened a lot for a lot of people. While I'm in the US, maybe they need like 1 person, so they take 1, but it's you just have to wait for them to say, okay, there are not enough people, so we just open so yeah. If you have any, so Beatrice talked a bit about, then you can have, could you repeat the university? Yeah, I mean, I did Pisa, so Foscari, and I did a VIU class, and then I did the Sciences Po summer school. But in general, all summer schools and all Erasmus are appreciated, because you just have to differentiate the recommendation letter. So for example, I had one from this professor from the summer school, which was a professor that was teaching in my department in the master that I wanted to do. So I had him this semester. And the other one was Cesarale, because I did my thesis with him. So I suggest you to have your thesis professor, and then like another professor that is specialized in the topic you want to study. So exactly like if you're going to do law and maybe you're not doing the thesis with the video for the Pisers here, just ask the video. I think she only gives recommendation letter for people who got very high grade in her course, but she's a bit more selective. Like I think you also have to have done like Veumeu and other stuff. Yeah, Beatrice, maybe you can.
Professor De Vito specifically tells you that she writes the recommendation recommendation letter for you if she knows you. So yeah. To either I don't know, speak to her after class, ask a lot of questions, maybe participate to a VIU class. But yeah, the thing is that normally she will write it for you if you're writing the thesis with her. Like that's almost for sure. But otherwise, I don't know. I think she really needs to get to know you a bit more.
Yeah, she wrote my recommendation letter for another, because I also applied to Lund and I got in, and she wrote the recommendation letter for me to Lund, and I haven't done the thesis with her, but I did Veumeu. I got a very high grade in her class, and then I don't know. Yeah, I asked a lot of questions. I was very active in class, so she made an exception. But I know she wrote me, I usually do only to people that are in my thesis. But if you've done like the project for the Holocaust survivors, I think also that one, I know people who weren't doing the thesis with her, but got the letter because they were in that project. I can give some tips for the application, and then you can ask whatever question you want. I'm sorry, I think I spoke too much. So the application is very similar to the one of Beatrice. You need CV, 2 letters of recommendation, and mainly a motivational letter. For if you are doing PISA, you don't need the English certificate because 2 years in English are enough, which is very good. The good thing about Sciences Po is that it's a very good school, and it doesn't cost that much. So Paris is very expensive, but for Europeans, the tuition, which is 18,000 euros for people who are not from Europe. For people in Europe, they basically do a calculation with your tax, with it's like ISE, but it's not ISE. It's just with the tax reports for last year. So what you end up paying is very low. Like not that low, but it's for sure half of, even less than other schools. I mean, that is my experience. And so the CV, you really have to, you can only apply to one master and to a double degree. If, like, the only way you can apply to two stuff is if it's one, it's a double degree, and one, it's like, you know, Columbia Sciences Po or Bocconi Sciences Po, and then just a Sciences Po master. If you are applying to diplomacy, like to diplomacy and government, you have to have a CV that it's structured around diplomacy. Like I did the VEUMEU, but I mentioned in my letter, but it was useless because I did human rights. So I focused on my human rights experience. The letter, as I said, they have to be differentiated. The most important thing is the motivational letter. Oh, you have to have 28 of average, sometimes even more, sometimes even 29, because they throw out, if they have too many people, they just don't look at applications under sometimes 28.5, 29 sometimes. And the letter, you have to talk a lot about Sciences Po. That is what I would suggest. So talk about the courses you want to take, the concentrations you want to take. Like I saw there is this course with this guy who is the head of Human Rights Watch, for example. I want to take the course with him. I want to come to Sciences Po because you have the Youth and Leader Summit. You have, I saw you hosted a conference with Kamala Harris. I want to meet people. Like, you really have to talk about the school more than in other cases. And you also have to talk a lot, like not a lot, but you have to talk specifically where you want to work. If you don't know it, you can lie, no problem. Like, but you have to, like, I'm being real. You can lie, but you have to say a specific organization. Like, I want to work as a head of, I don't know, I want to work in the UNCR. I want to work, you know, in the European agency of something. You cannot just say, I want to be a political analyst in the institutional context. You have to say which agency, which thing. I want to work in Amnesty in this particular setting. So it's very, they want people who are very specific. So that's it.
Sorry, Ginevra.
Sorry, no, I know. Sorry.
So yeah, maybe it would be nice, because maybe some of you want to ask some questions to Ginevra. If you can maybe leave your email contact on the chat.
Oh yeah. Wait.
If you're okay with that.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, thank you very much, Ginevra. I think it was really interesting. We don't have.
I'm sorry, I talked a lot, but.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Beatrice.
If there are no other questions, I wanted also to make a small comment about what Ginevra said before about the age that Italian students are often the youngest. And I'm going to say something that might sound very unpopular, but here I go. You can take a gap year after your bachelor, guys. It's real. It's true. It can be a good thing if you're aiming high for your master. Because of course, it's a gap year that you have to use, for example, to do an internship, to do a summer school or a winter school or a spring school like Ginevra did. So really, if you feel like you want to go to Sciences Po, to London School of Economics, to universities that really ask a lot regarding your curriculum and extracurricular activities, take a gap year. Like maybe what I was going to do, I did the application and I told myself, if I don't get selected anywhere, it's okay. I'll take the year, I'll improve my CV, and then I'll apply again. And I mean, I was lucky because I was selected in one of the programs I liked. But in case, really use that time, because I noticed even in my program that my Italian friends and I are the youngest people, because the others had other experiences. Some of them already did another master and then applied for this one. They traveled. So I don't know. My parents were very strict with this. Like, they were like, okay, you have to start your master immediately because you want to, you have to keep going all the time, always pushing. But it's okay to do things other than university, especially if you are required a high average and a high average requires time and studying. So maybe consider also this of taking, a bit more time to do things that would also allow you to understand what you want to do in your future.
Because everyone is 25 anyways. So you're like, people like my academic advisor told me, I'm suggesting to people your age to do a gap year, especially if you want to do the thesis, but in general, do a gap year, because then you finish master, people have, 4 years of experience before, and then you just have, you have a degree, but you don't have a working experience. So I suggest, and I know a lot of people who are taking the gap year because they're like, I don't have working experience. And after this, it's like, it's not for students anymore, if it's for grown-ups, but if you don't have working experience, no one will hire you. And, so just do it. I know the Italian culture is the opposite, and I struggled with my parents too for doing the gap year, just that. But the professor were going to tell you this, and everyone is older, so don't worry and whatever.
Okay, so
otherwise you can just do like Filippo, finishing in 2 years and then taking the third year for all your
thank you for letting that be public. Okay, so thank you very much again, Ginevra. Thank you, Beatrice. And I think we can pass to Sofia. Sorry, Sofia, for robbing you 5 minutes more. Now we will end up for sure late, but whatever.
Hello.
Ginevra, do you have something to add?
Yeah, just saying you cannot pay 25% or 20% of taxes, yes, but you cannot do 2 years, like it's highly not suggested to do 2 years plus 1, because for most internships, you have to be enrolled in something. You can enroll in like a free university and still count as a student, but if you are an LSE or a Sciences Po student on a gap year, there are more possibilities. While if you already graduated, you are like already a person with 2 degrees, and most internships are reserved to students, some of them to recent graduates. So highly suggested to do it in between years, like when you are a student.
Okay, thank you again. So hi, Sophia. So actually, hello. It's different with you because you have already finished your master, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I graduated this year, like actually 2 weeks ago. And so my program was the double degree between the LSE and Peking University in Beijing in international affairs. So first of all, I would like to start by saying that I would really recommend this program. And in my case, it was also very specific to my interests, because so basically I've done the first year in Beijing at Peking University, and the second one was at the London School of Economics. And then while the whole program was in international affairs, which is still like kind of very general as a field, I had the opportunity to deeply specialize. So in the first year on China, obviously, and also like Asia as a region overall. And then during the second year at the LSE, I had the opportunity to really select among a large variety of modules. So in my case, I was interested in conflict and security issues. So I think one of the best things about the London School of Economics is that you really can select very specific topics for each module. So I feel like my profile now is very kind of focused on conflict, even though it's not a master in conflict studies. And I think this was really great because you really get a very specialized expertise, and you really gain in-depth knowledge, which is, I think, very good after having done PISA, because in this case, you get both the, let's say, good parts of doing a very general and interdisciplinary course like PISA, as I have done as well for my undergrad. But then you also get to choose among the 3 bigger fields that you study in your undergrad, and you choose the one that you want to build your career on. So I feel like this program I have done as a master really helped me to kind of shape my profile more. And then I think especially when you're interested in a region like China, it's really important to select a kind of education that gives you more than kind of a regional concentration. But for example, having had the opportunity of studying China in a Chinese university was really unique. And then it was right before COVID. So I get to have 4 months actually in China, which was nice. And so, yeah, I think this was the good part. Let's say the more challenging part that I would like to talk about is the fact that differently from Italian universities, you have a very different exam systems. So for me, this was a bit of an obstacle at first, because all the exams that you do in the British and the Chinese systems is based on papers and essays. So it's completely different from doing an exam. It's like not enough to kind of just study the things that you have to write in an exam, but you also have to really be able to structure your arguments in papers. It's really something else. And also, I think this at first was very much of a challenge to me. And it was also reason to feel kind of insecure, because when you are selected in one of these highly competitive programs, it's very common to have imposter syndrome, which means when you basically don't feel like you're good enough, and it's very common. It's just no one really talks about it, but I think it's very important to keep that in mind. And also, especially during your applications, you shouldn't feel deterred by the highly competitive grades or average and final grades that you might get here. But I think you should always try to apply, even if you're scared about that. I think also having done PISA for my undergrad really was something that I valued a lot throughout my master's, because I think, at least for how I lived PISA, it was more like, I think it's a course that is mainly focused on international relations. So I felt like all the study of philosophy and economics was more focused to be applied in international relations. So for me, that I chose that path was really useful to have knowledge of economics and philosophy. And I could see, like, talking to my classmates at the London School of Economics and in China, that this was really an advantage, and it's like very kind of unique compared to like most other students that usually come from just politics and international affairs as a background. So I think having done PISA really gave me that kind of flexibility in analyzing and writing papers. And especially, I think in the UK, it's really valued as a program because they have the PPE, and like it's more common than it is in Italy or also in other countries of Europe. Speaking about the application, I think the requirements are more or less the same as the other two master programs that we talked about today, with the exception that compared to Sciences Po, at the London School of Economics, the average isn't that strict, but what counts is the final grade, which has to be at least 106 out of 110. So I think that is more advantageous, especially because in Ca' Foscari you get a lot of extra points if you do internships abroad, if you also study abroad. So I think it's very much more relaxed than compared to Sciences Po. And then concerning the cover letter, I think it was my, I think the part that took me most of the time. So I want to give you the advice that I was given to and that I felt very useful. So basically, you have to remember that when you write these letters, it's the only occasion you have to say something more compared to your CV or compared to what you studied. So it has to be unique. And you really have to kind of convey the message that you are the only one who can tell. And I think this kind of comes together with the fact that you also have to build a very coherent profile. So in my case, because I was interested in China and Asia, I always made choices that kind of made me appear as a person interested in Asia, obviously. So I have done my thesis on the genocide of the Rohingyas in Myanmar. So I think that was incredibly helpful in like helping me build this kind of coherence about my interest in Asia. So I would really suggest you to choose a thesis that allows you to kind of talk about yourself when you apply to masters. So like also I've done a summer school in China, and then I started to learn Chinese during my undergrad, because even though I didn't get to a very high point at the time of my application, it still helped me to show my interest for this specific master that I've chosen. And then also I have done an internship in Thailand, which also helped me build this kind of profile that I think was what got me into this program, because I could tell I was interested in China, but I also had knowledge about China and Asia. So my suggestion is really try to be coherent in your profile and in your cover letter. I think because at Foscari you have a lot of choices about languages, and I don't know now with COVID, but when I was studying there, it was possible to attend classes to just, as like audits. So I think you might consider also taking the advantage of that and try to like learn more languages if that's like what you're interested in too, especially in international relations at least. Then I wanted to talk about the fact that the program that I've chosen is a very important financial commitment. So I think it can be scary at first when you apply. Also, when I applied, I didn't know how I would have financed it. So I was really about not to apply for this reason. But I think, for example, in Italian culture, is really not a thing to apply for loans. But I think in the UK, it's really something that is very common. I think among my classmates, most of them had the loan, because what is really important is if you study in the UK, you can apply to the government scholar loan support scheme. I will send you the link afterwards. And it's really advantageous because you get £10,000, and then you basically will start to repay the loan only if you get 20,000, around 20,000 pound as a salary once you get your job. And in case you are not working anymore, you're not forced to pay it back. So it's really something that is not very well known in Italy, I think, but it can be a means to finance your study. And then also for China, there are a lot of scholarships. Especially there is the Chinese government scholarship, which is really, really good to get, especially if you get into this program, because in China, Peking University is considered one of the best universities. They say that it's the Harvard of China. So it's generally very hard to get into for Chinese students. If you're international, it's something else because you apply through the LSE and it's much more easy. But if you're Chinese, it's very hard. So when you're entering into the Chinese system, it's very easy to get that scholarship. So you might want to remember this if you're interested in applying later. Especially, I think what was unique about this program is the fact that China is obviously a very, let's say, peculiar country when you study politics and international relations. So I think it really helped me to kind of build an objective opinion and thinking about China, because you get what is the Chinese perspective. So it's like very non-Western, and it can be considered as more like non-conventional for European standards, but it's what is the Chinese perspective. So I think when you do study in China, but also then study in Europe, you can really get both sides of the coin. And I think it's really important when you want to work, for example, on China and specialize on that country. Also, I would like to confirm what the other girls that spoke before me said, because I also wrote my thesis with Professor Sara De Vido, and I was really working hard to kind of build a close relationship with her, because I also did the exam in European Union law just to have a recommendation letter. And honestly, I think she was really helpful. She can be very strict, because it's true that she doesn't really write letters for you if you don't have a good grade, if you don't write her thesis with her. But once you kind of become her friend, she's really helpful and really nice. I remember also once I was invited by her to an event, and then she was like the spoke guest was a person working at the UNHCR. So after that, she asked me to stay just to talk to her, and it was really helpful. And I think not all professors do this. So really try to become friends with her, because she's really nice and helpful. And then, for the LSE, you also need just 2 recommendation letters. So I got hers, and then I got one from Professor Sabrina Marchetti. I don't know if she's still there. And also, I think Cesarale was very nice with recommendation letters. So I think you should maybe reach out to him as well. Also, I would like to say, because I had a very close friend at the LSE who did the double degree with Sciences Po. And so I wanted to say what she told me, because I asked her what she thought would have been the difference between Sciences Po and the London School of Economics. So she told me that Sciences Po is a very practical university, and also in terms of assignments, you really get to do more practical things. And you also the professors are usually practitioners or people who worked in the field before. So it's very different from the London School of Economics, in which I would say it's very theoretical. In my case, I took courses from every different department, and they were structurally different. For example, I took one course in the government department, which was on conflict, state building, and democratization. And it was very much focused on case studies and on the post-Soviet space. And it was very practical. But then if you take courses inside the international relations department, I felt like it was as theoretical as philosophy. So it can vary a lot among departments, but I think generally the LSE is more theoretical. So when you choose your university, I think this is the difference that you might want to take into account. What else? I would just really want to encourage you to be confident, because when I applied, I was really scared I wouldn't have gotten into this program. I took a gap year because the year of graduation, I was actually too scared to apply to this program, because I knew it was highly competitive, but then you can get it. You just really have to be confident. And if that's what you're interested in doing, just go for it. And I'm also available to answer questions, and also I can read your cover letter if you need. I will drop you my email. So just feel free to ask me anything.
Thank you very much, Sophia. I think also your speech was really, really interesting. So we are a little bit late. So if there are questions, maybe, I don't know if you can leave your contact in the chat. So
of course.
To hit you up. And okay, so I think it's the turn of Giulietta. So thank you again, Sophia. And Juliette, if you're ready, you can.
So hello, my name is Juliette, and I'm very happy to be here. I see a lot of friendly faces, so I'm happy that everyone can join. And yeah, I'm a first year student master in international affairs at the Graduate Institute of Geneva. If you don't know, this school is like it's located in Geneva. It's one of the first school of international relation in the world, and there are several prominent alumni that were students in this university, as for example the former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan, for example. But I mean, this is not the most important part, I would say, of the Graduate Institute, its history. It's a good school because I think you can choose what you like and you can specialize in something that you are interested in. So, for example, they offer a lot of specialization. And I choose, for example, trade and international finance as a major, while as a minor, I was interested in gender studies. And so I'm pursuing my minor in gender studies. And but actually there are a lot of them. So there is security, there is environment, there is global health, and many others. So I was a student at Pisa, and yeah, I think a lot of things have already been said by the other students. But what I would like to say is like to give some practical tips and to build a little bit up your CV. So what can you do practically inside the Ca' Foscari? So for sure, if you have the opportunity to do an Erasmus, it's very good. I did an Erasmus in Belgium, or any kind of experience outside your birth country. So if you can do an internship abroad, I know that is very difficult now, but also remotely. I mean, it's not that important to be located physically in another country, but to do something that is different from your academic path. So, you know, you can find a little job abroad during the summer. I worked in Canada, for example, during the summer, and I was like a children entertainer. So I was not doing a job very prestigious. I mean, it was only to have a new experience, and this is very good in your CV. But you can do also an internship in Italy. I mean, just do something different from the university. Then you can follow courses from VIU, and I did also that. And it's very good because the professors usually come outside of Italy. So choose a course where the professor come, I don't know, from Japan, I mean, and then if you build a good network with him, you can ask the recommendation if then you need a recommendation letter for your for applying to a university. And then engage in some activities, so extracurricular activities. Of course, there is VDS, and I'm very proud of VDS. I was part of that also. You can be part of the board, but also be just a member and try to do the activities they organize. For example, the Model European Union was very, I think, bonus for me. And then what can you do? You can find a mentor. I know there is a mentorship program with the Ca' Foscari. I don't know if it's in place. Last year was in place and it was very helpful. And then use also career service tools. So I know there is a service that is about the CV. So there is a person in the Ca' Foscari career service that will revise your CV. And also this is very helpful because it's not that easy to write a CV, to write a concise CV that is interesting. And so I think look at it and for sure you can find it. And then what can you do? Oh yes, work for the university. Also, this is another opportunity. You cannot find any job outside the university, and there are some opportunities inside the university. So for example, I worked with the disability office And this is a very important thing because you have some experience and it's facilitated because it's inside the university. So other practical tips is, I would say, do some networking, even if it in Italy or at Ca' Foscari is not a word that is super used, but I would say when you go abroad, then networking is like the key. So engage with the professor, with other students. Don't be afraid to talk with the professor. I would say it's very important. There is not only Sara De Vido, luckily, that can do a reference letter. There are many professors and they are very highly qualified. So talk with Professor Montuschi, she's very helpful, Cesarale, but I mean, everyone is a professor, so like the professor can be helpful, not only Sara De Vido, I would say. And then apply to a lot of unis, I would say. Another tips is like, don't focus only to the well-known university. There are good universities in Europe, and there is a lot more than Sciences Po, the London School of Economics, Graduate Institute, blah, 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 the Hertie School, etc. There are other universities. And sometimes it's a little bit about the name of a university, but I mean, I applied to a lot of universities. And then the problem is to decide usually in which one you want to go. Other things that can be helpful, like in practical terms, is, yeah, I mean, as Sophia already said, is learn some languages. I mean, probably you have a good knowledge of English, but if you have time, learn another language. This is also something that you can put in the CV. And I mean, yeah, I think this is it. So basically all the things I listed are my experience. So I did everything basically that Ca' Foscari could offer. So I mean, it's possible, apply to everything, see all the emails they send you, the career service, mentorship program, subscribe to VDS. I mean, do a lot. And oh yeah, I forgot also volunteering is another possibility. I mean, engage in your city. Probably there are some volunteer groups, and this is also something very important. I was a former student at Pisa. I was also the representative of Pisa students. That's also another thing that could be something I would say helpful for building up a CV. And the positive thing of Pisa is that it gives you critical thinking for sure. And I would say my bonus point at the Graduate Institute is our philosophical understanding. Our philosophical background actually is very important, but you understand it only after you finish the Pisa, I would say. And then the only negative side is that sometimes you need to know more about other subjects if you are a Pisa student. So for example, my major is in finance and I don't have any knowledge in finance, of course. And you need to catch up. I mean, this is the truth. You have to catch up, and there are, of course, courses online you can do. But this is something that you have to worry probably after the application process. And it depends really on your interest. But I choose something that it was not in my knowledge. So I need to catch up with the others. I think, I mean, you can write me if you have any other question. This is the link to the Graduate Institute website. I know that there is also Viola, that she's also a colleague of mine at the Graduate Institute. I think she will also explain maybe a little bit more about the Graduate Institute. And of course, it's a very good school. It's very prestigious. What's the difference with the Ca' Foscari is that it's very well organized in terms of like practical things. So the career service works very well. as Ginevra said, in Sciences Po, every week you receive an email, a newsletter with 50, 70 positions open to do an internship, to early career opportunities, etc. Of course, you have a very positive thing that is located in Geneva. So, our university is 5 minutes from the UN. In front of our university, there is the UNHCR. If you cross the road, there is the ITU, International Telecommunication Union. It's like a little bit the heart of international relations, international affairs, etc. Of course, it's very high. It's very competitive. A lot of things that have already been said. You need to have faith in you and to really find your way, even if it's very hard, very competitive, very elitarian. This is, I think everyone knows that. And what else? I think, I think that this is it. Another interesting thing about Graduate Institute that I think is very singular is about interdisciplinary programs. There is a thing that is called Capstone Project, and you can find it in Google through their website. And the Capstone Project is something very interesting to do, and it's mandatory for students at the Graduate Institute. And it's a project in which you do a research with an institution. So, for example, each year there are the university has a partnership with 50, I would say, organizations, many UN agencies, in NGOs mostly, and you do a real research project with this organization. So it's like the bridge between academia and the work in the International Geneva. So, take a look and try. Apply to a lot of unis and hurry up, because I know that application usually end in January, maybe February, but yeah, try. Why not?
Thank you very much, Juliette, for your presentation. Then we will move on to our next speaker. That will be Viola Santini, as already mentioned by Juliette, another student of the Graduate Institute of Geneva, of Geneva. And Viola, are you here? Are you ready to speak?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I'm Viola. I've studied Pisa, and now I'm doing the master in international law at the Graduate Institute, like Juliette. First of all, I want to say that there is like a huge difference, I think, between my master and Juliette's master, because her master is in the so-called interdisciplinary program. So it's much more practical. In fact, they don't have like a PhD program after the master. While my master, which is in international law, is much more kind of standard and theoretical. So you have less practical experience and more like standard courses and theoretical courses. And you also can decide to apply to what they call a fast track PhD program. So basically, you're gonna do 1.5 years master, and then you're not gonna write your master thesis. Instead, in the last semester, you're gonna start your PhD right after the master. And this is kind of helpful if you wanna save some time. It's not mandatory. You can also finish your master, do your thesis master, and then apply to the PhD and do that. And you can also do the master and then go to work or do an LLM or something else. The PhD is not compulsory, but I think it's a very interesting options that they give you. And what to say about that? Okay, so basically, I did Pisa and I want to do a master in journalism. So I did all my internship in the journalism field. And then in the last year, when I did the Vido's course in international law, I basically changed my mind and I discovered that I was really interested in international law. So I left aside journalism, and I tried to apply to the Master in International Law at the Graduate Institute. And they actually accepted me, even if my experience was in another field. And I think the reason why they accepted me is because they really value your previous experience in other fields. My mates, almost everybody has said, like 25, 26 years old, and they all like took gap years and they work in different fields, and they have a lot of like different previous experiences. So like don't think that you have to get into the master right after your bachelor, because we have time. We're still young. We can take some time off and discover new things and try stuff. And besides that, what would I say? Okay, I think the choice of the thesis is very important, because I think it's really valued when you do your application. I did my thesis with Professor Sara De Vido in the field of international law. And I think it was really useful for my application, but was also useful for like approaching the field of international law, because as you know, in Pisa, we have only one course in international law. So I mean, a lot of my classmates, they're lawyers. They studied law for like 5-6 years. So it was at the beginning, it was really hard to catch up with them. But then having the opportunity to write a bachelor thesis in that field really helped me. Another thing is that if you have the time to do that, study French, because it's really useful. I mean, Juliette already knew French, so she's not studying that now. But in Graduate Institute, you have the choice between classes in English and in French. You're not compelled to attend French classes in French. But then if you don't know French, you have to take French classes for the first year. That's what I'm doing. They're not very hard classes, to be honest. But at the same time, I mean, I've seen that all the internship positions and work offer, they all ask you to have like a minimum level of French. So if you can start studying it a bit before applying, before coming to Geneva, I think it would be really useful. And what can I say? Another thing I wanted to say is that the Graduate Institute, even if Geneva is a really expensive city, the Graduate Institute is actually not really expensive compared to other European universities. I mean, for the level of like studies and services they're offering, it's not really expensive. I think it's even less expensive than Bocconi. It's 8,000 francs per year. And they also give you a lot of opportunities to work inside the university and gain money as a student to pay your fees. And then if you're like representative of some student association, you're not gonna pay the fee, which I think it's really, could be really helpful for a lot of people. And what else to say? Do you have any question?
Yeah, maybe Viola. Okay, Alberto.
No, Filippo, please.
No, I've just seen that you two, as Ginevra, have written on Geopolitica, if I'm not wrong, and you are also a freelance journalist. Maybe if you could say some words on that, also for, yeah.
Okay, as I said, I wanted to do my master in journalism at the beginning, so I did my internship with 31 Meg, which is a journal from the Netherlands. Was a very nice experience actually. And then I wrote for Geopolitica, but I wasn't an intern. I just, when I had some like idea on some like article to write, I just wrote the article and send it to them. And they usually accept it. So I was like an external collaborator. I didn't get any credits for that, like in Foscari. It was just like something I did when I had some, I don't know, idea or something. Like, for example, I wrote my paper for the Frappis course, History of Asia, and then I translated it in Italian, and I sent it to them, and they published it. So it's really like kind of chill, and it's really nice because they give you really nice corrections. Like, they really value your work, and they're gonna give you very nice feedbacks. So if you want to do that, I mean, if you do it as an external freelancer, you can just send them articles whenever you want, so you don't have any pressure or like deadlines or anything. So that's it. If you have any questions, I'm gonna give you my email. I'm gonna write it in the chat, and I hope you're gonna get in the university you want to get in. So best of luck.
There was Ginevra with a hand raised.
I just wanted to say that I also wanted to do journalism. So if there is someone that also is thinking about it, but please, from Pise, I don't like suggest you to go straight to journalism, because the thing that it is that journalism, they really value like that you are you have knowledge on a field. And so if you apply from a very general degree, you will struggle because you're not specialized in anything. So it's better to, for example, I'm doing the concentration in journalism. So I'm doing the minor in media. So I take each semester, I take a course in journalism, but I'm specializing in human rights. So you can also specialize in diplomacy, and then you can be a journalist for, institutions and stuff. So if this is, and I wrote in my letter that I also wanted to take this concentration. So it's good, but if you want to do it, don't go straight to, if you don't have a very an area you're specialized on, it will be a problem, I think, after, because everyone is specialized in, Middle East or human rights or gender or security, cybersecurity and stuff. And then you just have a philosophy degree with knowledge on how to write articles, which is not what is really valued, I think.
I want to add something. I mean, I do agree with what Ginevra said. But I also want to say that you don't have to be scared to specialize in something even after Pise, because at the beginning I was like, okay, I'm going to apply to international law, but I don't have any big knowledge in the field, because I know a bit of politics and a bit of philosophy and a bit of economics, what I'm going to do with that. But then actually I found it really helpful, also because, as I was saying, my master is kind of theoretical. I mean, it depends on the classes that you choose, but it's overall a theoretical master. And for example, the knowledge of philosophy is really helpful for me. And all my classmates that did their bachelor in law, they do not know anything about philosophy. So when we talk about Kelsen or about Habermas and everything, they don't know who are we talking about, and they know it, and they feel like, oh, thank you, Pise. So I think you don't have to be scared to choose something that is even very specific, because you can do that. I mean, Pise gave you enough knowledge to specify on something if you want to do that.
It seems that my good friend Federica has a question, so
yes,
go ahead.
Hi, Yola, thank you for your speech. And since I'm kind of interested in your path, so in graduate institutes, I wanted to ask, what do you exactly mean when you say theoretical? Because I'm considering also other masters in international law or human rights law, and some of them are more theory and practice of human rights, or I think maybe also Ginevra's master is more humanitarian action. So what do you think is the difference between what you define theoretical and these other masters? I'm also also Ginevra maybe can answer.
Okay, what I mean with that is that since the PhD in international law in the Graduate Institute is a really big one, and it's kind of important, they put a lot of pressure on this like side of international law, so on the like research side. But then actually, and this is, I think, a really good thing of graduate institute, and it's also valid for Juliet course. You basically have some courses that you have to attend, so like compulsory courses. And for the Master in International Law, you have 3 of them. So right now I did 2 compulsory courses, which was like Foundation of International Law and International Law in the 21st Centuries, which are like theoretical and practical bases of international law. And then you can choose your courses among a very long list of courses. So basically, if you want to do something more practical, you can actually do that. For example, I did a course in human rights with this professor, Andrew Clapham, and he was a practitioner. So he worked in the UN, he was in the Sudan mission. So his course was really practical at the end of the day. But then what I mean with theoretical is that you don't have, for example, a compulsory internship to do. I mean, you have your master thesis, but you are not compelled to do an internship. You don't have the capstone project, which Juliet has, which is like a kind of project that you have to do with some NGOs or like international organizations. So you don't have to, if you want, you can spend your whole master inside the academia, basically. That's why I say theoretical. But then practically, if you want to do something more, you can actually shape it somehow and choose maybe some more practical courses and decide to do some internships. So it's not really strict in this sense.
Yeah, no, it's less theoretical than in this sense. It's less academic than Viola. It's not a degree in law. People who do the thesis are like, we are around 140, I think. So it's a big course, but then classes are like maximum 25 people. The mandatory class are all the whole course, but then it's like very small classes. We take law, the human rights law, and then the program, I'm gonna send you can find for each, and we have to pick from them. So you can see. What I can say is that there is a law clinic. Can you hear me? There is a law clinic, which is a program in collaboration with the law school, which is very good. And you're like, basically it's a 1 year long, it's selective, but it's not impossible to get in. And you can choose between projects. So you can, like, for example, there is a project on, I think, the right to have the housing and stuff, which is for right now is being done with the current special rapporteur for human rights and extreme poverty in the UN. And basically what you do is you apply to one program and then to one course, and then for a whole year you do a law project, which is practical. So you do law classes, and then you do like on the field stuff with a practitioner. So it's very good. There are people in my degree that haven't done a single course of law, and there are people who come from a law degree, but it's not, there is human rights theory and practice, there is negotiation, there is advocacy. So it's a lot of other stuff, but you can have like a law, like more like a law track, but it's not necessarily that. So, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Add something?
Oh, yeah. Just,
elsewhere.
Yeah.
I was thinking about, and it's not compulsory, but for example, we also have something that is called moot court. So if you want, instead of taking a course, you can take this moot court, which is basically like a sort of like fake court simulation. So you can like actually put into practice what you're studying. So yes, I think that the core courses are still very theoretical. Choose to, I don't know, shape your master experience in a different way.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Viola, and thank you, Ginevra. Also, thank you, Federica, for the questions. Guys, don't be shy with the questions, and Now I'm going to introduce you the next, our next guest. He's another very distinguished ex-PISA student, Ludovico Campagnolo. So Ludovico, if you're ready to go, feel free to take the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Alberto. I'm super happy to be here and see all these people I've worked with in the last 3 years. So, okay, I'm Ludovico. I'm currently enrolled in the double master's Bocconi LSC in European and International Public Policy and Politics. And yeah, I'm spending the first year in Milan, so at Bocconi, clearly. And the second year, I will go to London, hopefully, in presence. Now, for now, all I have are compulsory courses in Bocconi because the optional ones will be in the second year and I won't be there. And still have not decided what to do in the second year. There are some compulsory courses in, for instance, econometrics again, and policy analysis. But yeah, in the first year, like I have the upcoming exams in game theory, public economics, public administration, econometrics, and I have done an exam in political science. All these subjects have a rather, let's say, clear-cut Bocconi approach, which is really quantitative. So even in political science, it's all about the regressions, the difference in difference. So yeah, you really have to look at the tables, at the data to know what you're talking about. And both professors and students, this is a thing that I really lacked in the first months. A bit of the philosophical approach, let's say, of PISA. Yeah, professors and other students scolded sometimes at me when I argued something without really having the concrete data there to show them. And they said, like, one guy actually said to me, "You don't have you don't have any idea what causality is," or something like that. Yeah. I was not happy at that time. Anyway, so if you choose to apply to this program or to anything Bocconi related, you really have to keep in mind that what you study for in the GRE, for instance, or the Bocconi test is not enough, let's say, and you will have either to take some of the preparatory classes at the beginning of the semester. Actually, they began in August this year, the end of August. And yeah, you really have to focus on mathematics and go more in depth in economics yourself, because the professors will treat you, well, will be a bit annoyed if you don't know how to do derivatives, for instance. Anyway, so this is the, let's say, academic-wise thing. And then for what concerns the people there, I have to say something different from what the speakers before me have reported, let's say, because most of the people enrolled in this program are either my age or even younger. So that's born in 1999 or 2001, because Bocconi is still an Italian university, and it's far more common in Italy to do a master's straight out of the bachelor's. Most of the older people are foreigners. We have a 27 years old who worked with the Central Bank of Peru, and he's like, yeah, in Bocconi you can find these guys. He's amazing. We call him the god of game theory. And yeah, but anyway, there are really super passionate people that are always eager to talk with you about well, more serious topics, let's say. And they are really knowledgeable. Like, let's say that the average knowledges about politics and economics at Bocconi are exceptionally high. I have found myself, let's say, not being a super good student at first, because apart from the quantitative skills, I also was stunned by the way people continued not only to talk about it's not only politics, it's let's say serious matters at length, but it also that they studied like 10 hours a day. Like they entered the university at like 9 and always left when it closed at 8:30. So in a sense, this competitive environment forced me to be like them. And if you don't really appreciate such environments, I don't know, maybe if Bocconi is the right place, because even if the subjects themselves are not that extensive in depth, etc., but like the people there really want to get better grades, really want to complete the projects, and study far more than it is required. And in a sense, this is the Bocconi stereotype, but I believe that, at least in my experience, it is true. Maybe it's just the people I hang out with. I don't know. Maybe it's a self-selection problem. I really wouldn't be able to say. Anyway, for what concerns applications at Bocconi, for instance, as we are talking about this in the workshop, as far as I heard, that's as far as my knowledge goes, Bocconi only looks at your GPA and at the GRE/Bocconi test. I really suggest you to do the GRE. GMAT, if you are, let's say, more quantitative, prone to quantitative skills, but in general, GRE is easier, in my experience. Whereas the CV and the motivational letter are less useful. I don't even know if they take a look at them unless they have to decide between two candidates, between two more or less equal master's candidates. On the other hand, so if you're interested only in Bocconi, you have to focus on the GPA and really study a lot of weeks for the GRE. At least I suggest you to do that. The GRE is a standardized test. It's like the SAT, but for graduate students. Same goes for the GMAT. On the other hand, LSC approach is a bit more holistic, again, to my knowledge. So in that case, apart from what the other speakers already told you, I believe that for each, let's say, applications you do, you kind of have to tailor the personal statement and the CV for that university. So if you know that, in this case, Sciences Po really wants you to talk about Sciences Po, then you kind of have to, let's say, rephrase your entire, I wouldn't say your experience, or reframe, better than rephrase, reframe your experience at this point, to fit the university, because otherwise you would be just writing generic personal statements, and this is the worst that can happen. Similarly with recommendation letters. If the professor agrees to write something for you, but he doesn't know you, or she doesn't know you really well, then you're kind of in troubles, because the admission committee will definitely tell that this professor doesn't really know you, maybe just brought the recommendation letter out of generosity or whatnot. So engage with the professors. And don't think that they are like these monolithic figures who are only there to teach you, and they go away, disappear out of disappear in thin air. Because some of them, and you will definitely be able to tell which ones, have also, let's say, a kind side, are also very available to students. For instance, during my Erasmus at KCL, I found a professor, and I found this professor who like played the same video games as I did. So let's say, and still we follow each other on Instagram. Like he's very, he wrote most of my recommendation letters, obviously. Yeah, he was all around amazing guy. And I believe that if you are able to, let's say, approach a variety of professors, in the end, you will find the ones that are going to go out on a limb for you. Then what other things? Well, the exams are very Italian-like, so they don't really require you to write papers. At least the partial exams that I did. Bocconi is mostly about projects. So basically every course will have a group project, whether it is a presentation, a policy brief, or for instance, a set of problems that you have to solve. They really focus on this. And I believe that in this case, you will have to learn how to engage with a group. That things that at Pisa we don't really, we do. Like I did a couple only. So Bocconi, I did 4.5, let's say, in 3 months. So, okay. Anyway, so the exams are very Italian-like. Some American professors, for instance, try to let you write essays, more lengthy answers. But the thing is that they are not able to for, I don't know, maybe legal reasons. I haven't looked into that, but still, I would recommend also Bocconi Career Service. I have to mention this is exceptional in the sense that really, if you take a minute to, once you're enrolled, for instance, if you take a minute to go to the UATB, this is the agenda, let's say, the sort of Moodle that we have. Every time I open it, there are like 800 positions opened for internships or general jobs, it is sometimes even difficult to navigate it because there are so many options. And Bocconi is also very well connected, let's say, with European international institutions, maybe not as well as Sciences Po, but still, I believe that like most Italian people that work in European bureaucracy are from Bocconi. This is my 2 cents.
Ludovico, excuse me. So there is a question of Matteo on whether you had to take additional exams in the field of economics to enter.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see that. Anyway, that was for sure for the LSE Sciences Po application I did. So, but for Bocconi required a certain number of credits, maybe it was 60, in certain settori scientifico-disciplinari. And it is something you can only look at least I looked at them, when I got the report of all my exams, like to submit to the application form. And near each exam, there is a code that is like SSN and then a number. And you have to, but I believe that if you take even just economics of globalization, for instance, on nothing too outlandish, not like Philippe and Alberto did with all their micro, macro, and whatever. But if you follow, let's say, this straightforward Pisa degree, and then you just choose to get the probability, mathematics, and economics, so already in the Pisa, I believe it will be fine. I don't know if this is like something they can't really ignore or not, if there are people who get rejected because they don't have the exact number of credits. Although I for sure know that some people in my degree have a non, let's say, political science degree at all, not even in economics. For instance, there are people who graduated in history 2 or 3 people graduated in history in the bachelor's. And then like at the data analysis, so not my course, but another course, I know a person who graduated in psychology and got into the data analysis, some data science degree, master's. So, okay. Yeah, whereas as far as the financial, let's say, okay, perfect. As far as the financial support goes, on the other hand, I'm taking inspiration from what the other people, let's say, told about the university, by the way. As far as the financial support goes, Bocconi is a bit lackluster. Probably they just need the money. I don't know. In the sense that you are able to find banks that give you loans, obviously. Intesa San Paolo is the ones some of my colleagues went to. And then yeah, unless you are super like an incredible student, and like I believe there are 2 or 3 in my course, you can't really get the scholarship because they are very limited. On the other hand, LSE, I mean, I don't know specifically how LSE works. It is a problem for my future self. But let's say that they allow for more extensive programs for sure, because Bocconi set the bar really low. Yeah, so one tip also for especially for people who enroll to programs that, let's say, require you to let's say go out of the typical philosophy, IR and yeah, philosophy and political science, let's say, fields, is that when you get admitted, probably even if you get admitted, probably the most difficult part is not over, because like last year I thought that once I got in, perfect, I can now pack my bags and go on vacation. But the problem is that it is let's say completely misleading claim that I convinced myself of. Because in reality, let's say, I had to catch up with other people, close the gap in various fields, for instance, econometrics, first and foremost. And then after I let's say, learned some econometrics, I was also able to understand better the political science paper that the professors gave us. So let's say there are some fundamental things that Bocconi really, really wants you to know, and otherwise you'd be screwed. On the other hand, if you apply to a foreign university, especially one that you know it has, let's say, paper-based assessment, so you have to write papers instead of doing exams in an hour or 2. Yeah, it is incredibly useful to begin to write for some magazines, for instance, even the VDS International Hour or Geopolitica.info. There is a wide array of magazines that allow young people, students, to give their opinion on the subjects. And yeah, okay. Just you will be better able to support your claims and let's say argue about something you are convinced of, because the first times I at King's College London, where I did my Erasmus, the first things that I was really in trouble with was getting my idea across. So when writing the paper, really be able to put things in a way that the reader would be able to understand them exactly as I wanted to. And writing, in a sense, getting someone who gives feedback for your for what you write is essential. It also will allow you to write your personal statement better, and in general have some feedback on what you write is essential, let's say, in before you really begin to be used to it. So when you write, let's say, I try to say something different from the others. When you write your personal statement, it is fundamental to have someone that is, let's say, a college student like yourself, so not grown-ups, not your little brothers or sisters, something that is pretty much your age, that goes to university, that is more or less involved in all these admission troubles, etc., knows what's going on, and be sure that there are people who give you honest feedback, and that they don't think you are gonna steal their place in in a university, because otherwise it would be a problem. Yeah, these are the tips that I believe I've said everything my notes allowed me to say.
Thank you very much, Ludovico. So maybe I can add something on the quantitative part, on the question of Matteo. I think that at least me and Alberto suggest you people who want to apply to quantitative master to attend for sure the courses in microeconomics and mathematics, at least, of the economics department, because we can do that here in Ca' Foscari. And I suggest you also to take the statistic course, because the probability course with Tonellato is not enough, really is not enough. Now I'm studying real statistics, and yeah, it's really hard. I can tell you it's really hard. Yeah, or even
also like, intro to econometrics.
Yeah, also that. And yeah,
in the bachelor.
Just one thing, guys, maybe at the end of the workshop, in the next days, we will send you a survey to ask you how was this workshop, even if I think it's really interesting, thanks to our guests. And yeah, so thank you again, Ludovico. I think we can give the floor to Nicola. So hi, Nicola. So you're another guy who has already finished his studies, and but who also studied in Bocconi. So yeah, just introduce yourself. Thank you for coming. Okay, your microphone is off.
Can you hear me now? Properly? Okay. Okay. So hi everyone, I'm Nicola. I belong to the first cohort of PISA. I joined PISA in 2015, and I did 2 years there in Venice, and then I spent 1 year in Sciences Po for an exchange. And then I joined Bocconi. I did the Master of Science in Economics and Social Sciences, that is basically quantitative economics. So math, stats, econometrics, and theoretical economics. And it is a master that is very research oriented, in the sense that people go there to do a PhD after, and it is the best way to get to a PhD in the US, for example. If you want to do a PhD in economics, that is the right place to go. And after I did a couple of internships in the meantime, and then I graduated, and since May now I'm working in an economic consulting firm, an American company in the Madrid office in Spain, and it's basically about antitrust from an economic point of view, so a lot of microeconomics and econometrics. And what can I say more? First of all, maybe I don't really know the kind of public that there is here, but I would like to give you maybe some very general tips at the beginning. So first of all, when you remember that when you apply for a job or a PhD in the future, what matters is your master. more the bachelor is really something, let's say, it's not that important as your master. So be very careful in picking your master. And for me, the most important thing is to specialize. Now we did a very broad bachelor, let's say, and the master is really at the master it's time to specialize in one of those fields that we studied at Pisa. And because that is really, the master is really the bridge between the study years and the job or PhD market. And in the best way, and the best way to pick a master for me, it's not to think about what you would like to study, but to think really about your future job, how what you plan to do in the future. And the best way to find this out is to basically to go to the job portal of companies or institutions, or to look at the CV of people that inspire you, people you would like to become in the future, and go there and look for the requirements that are needed to reach that positions. Because the job portal of universities, the course descriptions of university are a thing, but then realize maybe it's different sometimes. So it's better to really look for evidence, for what really the market requires, and trust that more than the course descriptions of universities. And try to realize it. I know it's very difficult to pick to choose one field rather than the other, or to fall in love with one field rather than the other. But try hard to find out what you really would like to do in the future, and the soonest you realize it, the better, because basically then you have more time to fill the gap in terms of skills that you need to apply for those masters. And then you can play better, in picking electives, in doing taking extra courses, doing extra credits courses, or I don't know, join a certain association that really matches your interests, and that could be even useful to prove that you like that field. And then also keep in mind that the job market is a market, and then you know that there are certain jobs that are relatively more required, let's say more, for which there is a higher demand than others. And so my suggestion is to consider this, and if you choose to do something for which the demand of job is relatively lower, let's say, they at least try to go to the most prestigious universities you can. And it's not always a matter of money in this case, because there are also many good public universities in the north of Europe, for example, in the Netherlands, and that are not expensive at all, and that are very well ranked in worldwide. And in terms of application, for me, I applied to many masters, both abroad and more abroad than in Italy. And the general tip for whatever application you do is you have to prove materially with evidence that you struggled hard and you studied, you are really committed, you are fit for that position, let's say, as a student in that master. And you can prove these showing that you did the electives in the field for which you are applying, that you did extra credits courses in or you did certain certifications, and the motivational letter that is often required in these applications is the right place to show, to mention this. And more specifically for Bocconi and my master, that is the quantitative economics master, some tips. Basically, my tips are those that gave Alberto and Filippo before. Go for the more maths and stats related courses as you can. And if you and as they told you, don't consider the stats courses by Tonelato, and go for the economics department ones. I remember I was very disappointed by the maths and stats courses that were included in the PISA curriculum study plan. And what else? And do extra exams. I mean, I'm speaking for economics, and in particular at Bocconi. I think that PISA allows you also to take some extra credits courses, and as we don't come from a pure economics background, we need to show that we are really committed and that we have the same capabilities as all the other students that come from an economics related background. And then if you have to choose, never do the Bocconi exam, because it's a waste. It's something very general and not related to the specific course that you are applying for. So, but it's very annoying. You have to study many things, and it's not worth it. If you can instead go for the GRE more than the GMAT, because the GRE is really something that looks at your intuition, your reasoning. You don't need to have any previous knowledge, let's say. Of course, you have to study and train a lot. I dedicated 1 month entirely just to study for the GRE, but it's something that is very appreciated at Bocconi and abroad, I would say. And you have the possibility to score very well because it's not something related to what you studied before. And then what else?
Nicola,
yeah, lastly, okay. Hi, Devor. Sorry if I didn't pronounce your name well. Anyway, I started my master with the purpose, with the idea of doing a PhD in economics, and I did. But and there was the right place to find out really if I was fit or not for that. And I found out that I was not fit for that because I like economics a lot. And I loved to study it from a more quantitative and theoretical point of view, but I didn't have that kind of devotion that was required to dedicate 5 more years of my life to studying this, to hard study, let's say. So I realized that I was surrounded by some people that were really interested and were really ready to give up a lot and to sacrifice a lot to study art and do a PhD. And I realized that I was not as devoted, let's say, as them. And but I found out that in the job market that there are very interesting opportunities that are I use a lot economics every day in my job. I'm super happy with it. I work fairly a lot, but I mean I'm very happy at this point. And one last thing maybe that I wanted to mention was I don't think Bocconi really is really strict in requiring exams a certain number of credits in a certain field. Maybe there are some general requirements. I don't remember that. I remember that it was for sure less strict than public universities, in which you really have to fill very bureaucratic, stupid requirements, a certain number of credits in management, in law. And this is very, this bureaucracy, I think, is stupid and doesn't have any sense. And Bocconi, I think it's more, it is more on the similar to universities abroad, as I applied for the Netherlands for Sciences Po, and there they really consider the whole picture, let's say, of the students, not just bureaucratic requirements. They look at your motivational letter, they look at the whole profile, and yeah, so you can, I think you can play better also in terms of application, and yeah, you can be more appreciated than public universities, I think.
Okay, guys, I don't know if you have any questions. If not, we can pass to Lorenzo. Okay, so thank you very much, Nicola, for coming. And yeah, I think it was really interesting, especially for people who want to study in quantitative stuff. So, and yeah, so here we have another guest who's studying economics, in this case, behavioral economics at Trento. Oh, yeah, so excuse me?
It's applied economics is the master divide. It splits into in the second year. The first year is the same for everybody, and then I went on to study applied. Okay. Other people went to study.
Okay, I didn't know that. Sorry.
It's all right. Okay, should I start?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so hello everybody. I'm Lorenzo. I'm a second generation PISA student, and I am currently enrolled, as I was saying, in the Master of Applied Economics at University of Trento. I have to confess I couldn't make it to listen to all of the speakers today, but from the lineup, I got the sense that many of them moved abroad to continue their studies after graduating. I kind of did the opposite, so I'm going to talk to you about my experience, hoping that this is helpful to some of you. So I spent my final year as a PISA at King's College London, and then decided to come back to Italy for my master. And there are a couple of reasons why I did that. On the one hand, I feel like Italian universities often receive critics that they don't really deserve. The one critique that I don't really agree with is that they are too theoretical. So for one, I think that English taught courses are closing this gap a little bit. And two, I think that academia is meant to be theoretical, at least at the bachelor and master level. You are accumulating knowledge, building up your human capital. So eventually, when you start to work on an applied project, that knowledge will come very, very handy. I think it is true that Italian universities stress more the aspect of like traditional studying, so frontal lectures, hours and hours spent on books, but I think that there is quite a lot of value in it. One critique that they do deserve, though, is that, and that is something that Italian universities should learn from their counterparts abroad, is the connection between academia and industry. I think that this is one of the most important aspects, especially at the master level. And if you plan on staying in Italy for your studies, I'd suggest you look up how your options, how your designated universities fare on that regard. Institutions such as Bocconi, which is a notch above the others, Trento, Bologna, they do considerably better than the rest. So keep that in mind. After these 2 years, you will be working, and it's important to be able to rely on a solid network of opportunities. A second reason that convinced me to stay, and actually it is probably the most important reason, is financial. University taxes in Italy are very cheap, and in most cases, so is the cost of living. While I was in London, I needed to work part-time 24 hours a week, and that just covered my rent. Especially at the master level, I think that it is better to try and focus only on your studies. Also because you may move to a degree that has higher requirements than the PISA, and you may have some catching up to do. which actually brings me to another thing that that may be of interest of you. I think it is of interest of you because I've heard some questions about it. Is it hard to pass from PISA to economics? So I must make a disclaimer. While I was in London, the majority of the courses that I enrolled into were from the economics and management department. And also whilst in Venice, I did quite a few extracurricular courses from economics and management. But in my view, the answer is no. As I said, I had to do some catching up, especially in statistics, maths, and macroeconomics. But in the end, I finished my last year with a better record than many of my course mates that came from the economics department. So I think it's really a matter of motivation, but I see no reason why one shouldn't be able to do the transition. Finally, I just wanted to say some things about my master and Uni Trento in particular, if you are interested in the same track that I pursued. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but as I was saying before, my master basically splits in two after the first year. The first year is like a recap of statistics, microeconomics, macroeconomics, econometrics, and the like. And then it splits into, as I was saying, in behavioral track and applied track. I'm going to talk about the applied track because it's the one that I chose. It's my personal experience. So we basically do a lot of data analysis informed by microeconomic theory. What does it mean? Well, you may have a simple model that makes some predictions, some simple predictions, and you want to use data, empirical data, to try and validate or falsify your model. So, for example, you may have a theory for which exporting producers tend to be more productive than domestic producers that only sell domestically, and then you use data from balance sheet, administrative data, survey data to try and test your theory. So yeah, basically we do quite a bit of coding. We employ tools such as RStudio and Stata, and I think that is something that's quite valuable, especially since we are moving into the economy of information. I don't know if you've ever heard of the economist Hal Varian, but you may end up studying on some of his textbooks because they are quite popular. He is currently the chief economist at Google, and he said that the job of the statistician will be the sexiest job of the next few decades. So I cannot really tell how I will be welcomed by employers since I still have to graduate, but I'm confident that there are quite a few career opportunities in that. As far as I know, there is a last year student doing a very well-paid internship in the Netherlands at Uber, and there is also a guy that went to the States to work for Twitter. So yeah, as I was saying, opportunities are out there. And as far as University of Trento goes, the thing that I like the most is that it's quite small, classes are intimate, and there is a very personal relationships with the professors. Exams in the first year are quite Italian-like, as Ludovico defined them, whereas this semester I'm just doing data analysis projects and writing reports, so this is very applied work. So all in all, I really enjoy it. Infrastructures are great, there are many students around, you're in touch with nature. I think it's a very livable city, especially coming from the experience that I had in London, which was a bit overwhelming. That's really what I was prepared to say. So if you have any questions, I'm glad to take them. The floor is yours.
Giulio, Italo, do you have a question? I saw you that you unlocked. No,
he changed his mind.
He didn't. Anyway, any other questions for Lorenzo? No. So I think Filippo, we can move to our last but not least guest, which is Sofia Lomascolo. She's doing a Master of Art in UCLA in philosophy, if I'm not mistaken, but she can tell about herself more. So please, Sofia.
Hi everyone, I'm Sofia. I graduated from Pisa last July, and now I'm doing an MA in philosophy at University College London. I've always been kind of an outlier in Pisa, as being interested in philosophy. So I don't know how many people will actually be interested in my intervention, but it's okay. So I think the first thing to talk about is London, because I agree pretty much with the comment of London being a bit overwhelming, especially if you come from Venice, which is a super familiar and small environment. London can be overwhelming and you need time to adjust. It took me 2 months to actually just to adjust to the environment and to the city. So it's really a big transition. So if you're considering studying in London, take that into account as well. So about my course, the study method is really different. I wasn't here for the first intervention, so I don't know if people already told you that, but usually abroad, you have no exams, you just write essays as a method of evaluation. So you get used to write a lot, which is good, especially if you want to do a PhD. Another big difference is the method, the educational method, because oral classes are seminar based, and so we have no frontal lectures. We basically have to read papers before class and then discuss them with other students. This means also that our professors are really have a really different role, because they act more as mediators in class. And sometimes they even say, okay, I didn't understand this part of the paper. As any of you understood that and can explain it to me? So it's much more of a peer relationship between students and teachers, which is nice. I had a lot of beers with my professors. So yeah, it's really different. There is no distance between students and professors. And I think that's a huge pro of at least of my university. So about going more specifically into studying philosophy in the UK, something I'd like to point out is that so most universities in the UK are really analytic in their method. For those of you who are not familiar with the distinction between analytic and continental philosophy, this means that most of topics you're going to address are based on an Anglo-American tradition, which is much more focused on logical reasoning. And so whether conclusions follow from premises. Honestly, I find it a bit dry, because it's kind of abstracted from real life and from more sociological or anthropological aspects of human life. So I think something that is really important, because it's something I struggled with in the first place, is understand which parts of philosophy you are really interested into, and look at universities that offer more compatible programs. For example, in the UK, there are some important outliers. So Warwick, Essex, and Kingston are really continental in their approach. But apart from those, I'd say that all UK universities are really analytic, because that's basically where the analytic method was born. So that's something you should really take into account if you're considering studying philosophy in the UK. Also, something non-English people don't know, usually I didn't know that, is that after your undergrad, you can choose between an MA, which is what I'm doing, and an MPhil. An MPhil is a 2 years program instead of 1 year program as the MA is. And so the first one is identical to an MA, but in the second one, you start your own research project, which will be your thesis. And then if you get into a PhD, you're gonna have a discounted year. So you're gonna have it will count as your first year of PhD, basically. This is not clear in most universities' websites, because when you look at the MPhil online, you see research based, and so you think it's completely research based, but it's not. I share all my courses with MPhil students. So for now, we're doing basically the same thing. They just have 1 year more. And I think it's really useful if you wanna pursue an academic career, and so a PhD, for two reasons. First, of course, you start your own project during your master's, and so you can like if you understand that's not what you want to go into, you can always change when you start your PhD. Second, PhD applications have deadlines in January, especially for funding. And like right now, I'm finding myself in a position in which I started my master 3 months ago, and I want to apply to PhDs, but I really can't because I don't have a clear idea of a research proposal, which you really need if you want to have funding. So if you want to go into research, I'd advise doing the MPhil rather than the MA. So that's about philosophy in the UK. So I think, because we were asked to say how we were like, how PISA gave us something more compared to our master's students. I think I wouldn't say it gave me something more, but something valuable. Because in PISA, you can really see the big picture. Maybe someone told that already, I don't know. But of course, each of us, like me and my master mates, we had different, we did different undergrads and we had different career paths. So like each of us is doing something that is compatible with what they're interested into. Of course, like doing the PISA, I'm a bit more interested in like practical philosophy as compared to like philosophy of mathematics, which I really don't give a shit. And so, yeah, basically, and also that's not a problem in terms of like choosing your courses, because all courses are electives except for like methodological stuff like thesis prep. But yeah, basically you can choose your own courses. So that's not an advantage, because of course, if I have different interests with some people, we won't do the same courses simply. Last thing about the application. So I don't really have great tips, because they evaluate your profile as a whole and not like abstracted parts of what you write in your application, because they want to see if you as a whole, as a person, are a fit with the university. Only 2 things are really important, I think. So the first one is the motivational letter, because that's what you're evaluated on primarily, because they know your grades can be the result of a lot of things, which are sometimes contingent. And so they want to see which kind of person you are, and they can see that through the motivational letter. What I did for my motivational letter was not focusing on what I already knew, on how good I was in doing stuff, but more on like who I wanted to be and who I wanted to learn. And so like focusing on how the program would be good for my personal development and in relation to my goals. And so which goals I wanted to achieve rather than those that I already achieved. And second thing, reference letters. You should ask someone who knows you really well, and possibly who also has like some good academic reputation in the UK, because they're really, in some sense, they're a bit isolated. And so they want to be sure that the person who writes your letter knows their system and knows you're fit to that specific system, which is different from other systems. Also, if you want to make sure your application is consider applying before the end of January, even if I know a lot of people who applied later and were admitted, but if you want to be sure that your application would be considered, do that pretty early. And I have a really good guide about the application. Actually, I'm gonna paste it in the chat. It's about PhD applications, but like the motivational letter and the reference letter part is basically the same. So that's really useful. And I think I'm done. Thanks for listening.
Oh, excuse me, can I ask you, because I think you like sort of managed, you were like the student representative for the Trust in Science project of Professor Montuschi, which I think is by the way, is the professor who you were talking about, who's considered in the UK. Like she's quite world renowned, I think, about philosophy of science. And yeah, if you can maybe say a few words about that project, please.
Yeah, so basically I was the one who started the student component of the TIS lab. So I mean, last year was kind of experimental, of course, because it was the first year. So I think this lab was a really good experience to see how like a think tank works in practice. So I collaborated with Professor Montuski in order to make it count also as an internship. I don't know if this year will be the same, honestly, because there's a new student who manages the lab, of course, because I'm not a Foscari student anymore. But I think, yeah, thank you, Filippo. I mean, I don't want to brag about anything because I was the one who organized, but I think it worked really well. I mean, there are a lot of people here who can judge in my place. And it was basically a discussion-based lab. We read some papers and we met every couple of months, I guess, to discuss those papers. And I think that's a good way of seeing how philosophy has relevance in real life, which is something that you can, it's really similar in a sense to how we do classes in the UK now. So like seeing, like when you discuss a paper, not only read it on your own, you can consider objections, and it really makes you reason about what you're, like seminar based, what you're reading. And so it's a much more critical reading of what you're reading, because you have questions, you discuss objections to your questions. And I really think it's a way to see the relevance of, like, see how philosophy is not a totally useless subject eventually.
Well, I think philosophy is not really a useless subject, because I think that many of you people who study a master in philosophy then get really good positions inside companies, then I don't know, maybe also ethics commissions, committees, and maybe you can add something of that, I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, I hope so. So I don't know, people. Yeah, sorry, Sophia. I think we are all kind of dead because we are like 2 hours and a half here on Zoom. It's not really, healthy, I would say. So I don't know if you people have other questions, or maybe if you can leave your contact on the chat, Sophia, your email contact, and then
sure.
Yeah, maybe. And yeah, I don't know, maybe, if there are no other questions, I will leave the floor to Francesco, our dear president, and conclude this workshop. And yeah, I hope it has been interesting, it has been helpful. Yeah, I think so, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, you have already said everything I wanted to say. So yes, I think it was very interesting. Also, it was interesting for me, and I'm already a master student, so I was less involved probably than other people. But yeah, it was very interesting, and I wanted to thank you again, and to thank Alberto. Well, Beatrice has left us, but also all our guests. And I also wanted to remind everyone that this meeting has been recorded. So in the next days, we will upload it probably on YouTube or on Instagram. We will see, but we will tell you by email since we have all your emails. And yeah, that's it. I think if nobody has any question, I think we can just close this meeting and this workshop. So congratulations everyone for this, and thank you again.
Thanks everybody. It's been a real pleasure this morning, this afternoon. A bit tough, but a pleasure.